So today I wanted to talk about a couple things that I do not like. Just a couple things that have been getting on my nerves, a couple things that people like to do that I think that they really should just stop doing. The first thing is somewhat political, and the second thing has to do with the movie. And we'll get to the movie in just a second. But when it comes to the political part, the first part of this, I do not like it when people compare Trump to Jesus Christ. It really gets on my nerves. And this really started months back earlier in the year when Trump was in one of his court hearings, when he was in one of the trials. He Somebody had gone into the courtroom and painted a picture of him while he was in court. And they took a picture of that painting and they posted it on Instagram. And I opened up the comments section and I see these comments where people were like, Trump standing in the gap just like Christ did for us. Trump is truly Christ like, and he's a good role model. He's a good Christ like man, and he's a good Christian role model. I see all of these different things. And I'm sitting there kind of eye rolling to myself. And mind you, I like never comment on anything, whether it's on my political page or my personal page. It doesn't matter if it's politics or if it's movies or sports. There's a sports take I don't like. It does not matter. I hardly ever comment on anything. And finally, I just had to say, enough is enough. This is kind of ridiculous what people are doing. It's very shallow to just compare Trump to Christ on a regular basis. And finally, I just put in there, I was like, let's pump the brakes a little bit here. And it was actually kind of funny because somebody commented directly after me and said, hey, I was about ready to say something similar. I was getting ready to say the same thing because this is just kind of ridiculous. And I think people have been misled and people are confused. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm not planning on voting for him here in a couple weeks. But to compare Trump to Christ, I think is, first of all, disrespectful to the example that Christ set, and it's very shallow. People have very shallow expectations, and people have been confused because they believe that if they say that Trump is Christ-like, they think that they're bringing Trump up to this level, right? They think that by comparing him to Christ, they have somehow made him a better person. And because he's a better person, it makes him a better candidate. But that's not actually what is happening. What you're actually doing is you're bringing the example that Christ set down. You are watering down the life of Christ. You're watering down the example that he set. If all you do is go around and you're just constantly handing out flowers to people and saying you're Christ-like and you're Christ-like and everybody's Christ-like, eventually the ultimate example that Christ set with his life and his death and his resurrection, the true meaning of his life, it eventually gets watered down because you're comparing all of these people to him that cannot live up to his standard. And none of us can live up to his standard. And look, I have had the privilege of, in my life, being surrounded by people who I believe are Christ like. Now, what I will say is that being Christ like isn't necessarily just about how other people treat you, it's about how you treat other people in spite of your situation, right? Because people are looking at Trump and they're saying, well, Trump has been falsely accused and he was unjustly prosecuted and somebody tried to kill him. Jesus was also falsely accused and unjustly prosecuted, and they were trying to kill him, and they did end up killing him. So that means Trump and Christ are similar individuals. That means that they stand for the same things. They do not stand for the same things. And you can agree, we can sit here and agree on Trump's policy and some of the cultural and political decisions that he wants to make and some of the things he wants to introduce into the country. We can agree on some of those things. We can agree to vote for Trump, but that does not mean he is Christ-like. And going back to what I was saying just a moment ago, it's not just about how people treat you, it's about how you treat other people. Because let's say, for the sake of example, that I was at work and somebody came in and they started yelling at me saying that I stole something out of their locker. Okay, let's say that they were falsely accusing me of stealing something from their locker. My first reaction would not be to turn around and say, well, I've been falsely accused of something. Christ was falsely accused of something. That means I'm Christ-like. That is a very shallow way of looking at Christ's example. And I think it would be very conceited of me to turn around and say, well, I'm Christ-like because I was falsely accused of something. It's foolishness. Foolishness. Comparing Trump to Jesus Christ is foolishness, and they need to stop doing it. What would be more Christ-like is if I turned around and I said, hey, you falsely accused me of this. That's okay. I forgive you. It's not what they did to me. It's that I turn around and I say, I forgive you. We're going to move on from this, and we're still going to be co-workers, and we're still going to try and be friends here and work together. That would be more Christ-like. And when it comes to how Trump treats people, again, we can agree that Trump might be better suited to hold the presidency over Kamala Harris. But Trump is a battering ram. He is a bull in a china shop. He is petty. Some of the things he does is disrespectful. Some of the things he says can be disrespectful. He holds a grudge against people. I mean, come on. What's the standard here? What is the standard here? I just think that it's really kind of sad in the end, because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm reading through all of these comments and I'm thinking to myself, is Trump really the only example they have in their life? Because that's kind of sad. That's kind of sad if Trump is the closest thing to Christ that you can find in your life. It might be time to readjust a little bit. It might be time to start looking for other people in your life that better line up to the example of Christ, as opposed to just making some connections between some of the things that might have happened to Trump and some of the things that happened to Christ. I just think people need to refocus on something better. If you're looking for a good Christian example, I don't necessarily think that Trump is, I don't think he is the best example of that. I don't think he's the best place to start looking. And I'm not trying to de-Christianize anybody, but I'm just saying, comparing Trump to Christ is foolishness, and it's disrespectful, and it's very shallow, and I think that people need to stop doing it. The second part of this, the second thing that I don't like, and this is going to be a little bit more on the lighter side. The second thing I don't like is people saying how good the Joker movie is, because right now they have just released the Joker sequel with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, I guess. I have not seen the sequel, but from what I've been seeing on social media, it's bombing. Like, it's doing horrible. It's failing miserably at the box office. And that doesn't really surprise me, considering the fact that the first Joker movie was extremely overrated. Extremely overrated. And there's a number of different reasons why. The first reason is this. It is very hard to build a world with the Joker in it that does not also have Batman in it. You can do that with Batman. Now, if you make a movie about Batman, the Joker brings out the best in him as a character. They kind of feed off each other. Joker and Batman are at their best when they're fighting one another, when they're both in the same story, right? But Batman has a deep enough rogues gallery. He has the best, arguably the best rogues gallery in all of pop culture. He has enough villains that Batman can still be great even if the Joker is not there. When you flip that around and you create a world that has the Joker but does not also have Batman, it kind of struggles. It kind of struggles because at that point, Joker just kind of looks like a person that just likes causing suffering without any real reason. He just likes doing a bunch of horrible crimes for no good reason. But when you throw Batman into the story who has an opposing philosophy, you realize that the Joker is not necessarily just in it to cause as much pain as possible. He's in it to corrupt Batman. That's the point. When it comes to Joker and his philosophy, he wants to corrupt Batman. That's his ultimate goal. And this is played out in, if you read something like The Killing Joke, right? The comic book, The Killing Joke. He wants to prove that everybody is one bad day away from being him. So he does all of these horrible things to Jim Gordon, trying to make him go insane. That does not happen. And it kind of proves that, look, the Joker's all alone. He just wants to corrupt good people. And if he does not have good people in the story to corrupt, he's kind of just a wacko, running around doing whatever he wants. And also, if you watch, there was this animated movie, it's The Dark Knight Returns. It's based upon the Dark Knight Returns comic, where Batman retires, he sits it out for a number of years, then he comes back when he's like 50 or 60 years old, trying to fight crime again. And once Batman retires in the movie, once Batman retires, the Joker basically goes into a coma. He literally cannot function physically without Batman. And when Batman returns, that's when he comes back and he starts doing all of his craziness again. He needs Batman. The Joker cannot function, in some cases, physically without Batman being there. And he also does not function philosophically without Batman being there. The second reason why this movie is overrated is because they tricked us. I don't know the name of the director. I don't know the names of all the people involved, but they tricked us. They basically because this is not the Joker, okay? This is not the Joker in any real capacity. They basically just said, let's take this random loser and give him a bunch of mental illnesses and say it's the Joker. And then we're going to throw in a bunch of casual references to the expanded Gotham mythos, right? Because they're like, oh, this takes place in Gotham, and oh, look, there's Thomas Wayne, and oh, is that Bruce Wayne while he was a kid? Ooh, expanded, DC Universe, Batman, Gotham. Ooh, it's almost as if they try to mask it. They throw in just enough references to Batman to make us think that this is happening in a Batman world, when it's actually just a Joker movie, where they call it the Joker. They just make it about this loser, and they give him a clown suit, they paint his face up, they throw in a couple mild references to the rest of Gotham and to Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne, and they say that's the Joker. That is not the Joker, okay? They tricked you guys. For those of you that like the Joker movie, they tricked you. You thought it was a Batman movie, and now you realize it's not a Batman movie. It's barely even a Joker movie. Okay? The third reason is that this character of the Joker in the Joker movie is wildly incompetent. Wildly incompetent. Okay? And I understand that some of the crazy stuff that the Joker does in the comics, it's not the easiest thing to translate into live action. If you look at The Dark Knight, for example, that is obviously it's one of the greatest superhero movies ever, and a lot of that has to do with Heath Ledger's Joker, but they kind of toned it down a little bit. It's still a great portrayal of the Joker character in a more realistic world, right? He's not this guy that's using, a jack in the box, chattering teeth, explosives, and spraying chemicals and laughing gas from the flower on his suit jacket, right? That's not who the Joker is. He's more so of a philosophy, the embodiment of a philosophy. He wants to corrupt Gotham. He wants to corrupt Batman. Sure, he's got some tricks up his sleeve, but it's not like some kind of magic show like it is in the comics. So I understand that you have to tone it down, but this Joker, uh, Joaquin Phoenix, I probably butchered that. His portrayal of the Joker is so incompetent. I don't know how he is even alive. And this is kind of a discussion. This is a discussion that you will find online when it comes to comic books. And what people will say when a new comic releases, when they reboot the comic franchise and they try and tell a Batman story in a different way or a Joker story in a different way, it's always like, well, Batman stops Joker for the 1,000th time, and then Joker escapes from prison for the 1,000th time, and then he goes on a killing spree, and he does all of his normal Joker things until Batman finds him and throws him in Arkham Asylum again. And you go and read the comments section, and it's kind of like, I think me and my brother have had this discussion before as well. It's kind of like, look, I understand that Batman doesn't kill because that's his character and that's what makes him work as a character. He has the one rule, right? In The Dark Knight, Joker tries to get him to break his one rule, and that is to kill him. It's only a matter of time before somebody just kills the Joker, right? Doesn't have to be Batman. Could just be some kind of random guard in Arkham Asylum. Could be Jim Gordon. At some point, Joker's going to be running through the streets of Gotham doing all of his craziness, and some random citizen is just going to go kaboom, and then it'll all be over, right? The Joker will be no more. We will not have to deal with all of these killing sprees. We will not have to deal with all of this craziness on a day-to-day basis because he just keeps on escaping from jail all the time. And so it's only a matter of time before that happens. Of course, that never happens because it's the comics. But in this case, where it's the Joker, this guy he's like hiding in a freezer. He can't like function in society, and that's kind of the point, is that he's been overlooked and he can't function in society. Nobody will help him. But at the same time, it's like, how does he get away with all of this stuff? Like, how does he get on this show? Like, how is he functioning day to day? He actually carries out some form of a plan because he gets on the talk show host, Murray, whatever his name is. It's Robert De Niro's character. He somehow gets on that show, somehow ends up killing the guy that made fun of him. Somehow he would have gotten away with the murder of those 3 guys on the subway if he hadn't confessed to it on television. How does he get away with all this stuff? How is he functioning on a day-to-day basis? Nobody knows. I don't know. He is wildly incompetent. And so it's hard to say that character is the Joker. And also because he's just so pathetic. He is just so pathetic. And it's actually something that Robert De Niro's character tells him in that interview right before he gets killed. He's like, man, dude, the self-pity here is just ridiculous. I mean, this is just an unbelievable amount of self-pity we're dealing with here. And he's right. He's right. What's interesting about the Joker, particularly in The Dark Knight, is that you don't feel sorry for him. You actually stop to think, is he right? Is he right? Should we just live without rules? Is that the only true way to live? Is the only true way to live without rules? Should we just do whatever we want? Should we just cause chaos? Should we just, as the Joker says, do things, right? And it kind of teases you in the back of your mind because you're like, man, everything's just so crazy and things can so quickly go off the rail. Why don't we all just live in a chaotic world? But then that's when Batman really shines, because he comes through and the city of Gotham comes through and says, no, you're alone in your psychotic state. Not everybody is like you. Not everybody wants to be like you. And we're not going to be like you. We're going to be better than you. We have a choice to be better than you. We don't have to give in to the chaos, right? We can We can still try and choose to do the right thing. We can still try and choose to be good people. But at least that Joker in The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's Joker, poses an interesting philosophical question. He's not a loser. He's extremely competent, and he might actually have a point to a certain extent. The Joker in the Joker movie is not competent. He doesn't make very good points philosophically, and so he poses no interesting questions. The whole movie is just about you trying, it's just about them trying to get you to feel sorry for him. And it's like, that's not who the Joker is. This is not a Joker movie. This is not a comic book movie. You just made a weird movie about some random guy and slapped the Joker name onto it. It does not count. It is not good. It's certainly not as good as people say that it is. So it doesn't surprise me that the first or the second movie is bombing. You know, they just got, people just got caught up in all of the extra whatever. People just, it seemed like it was a fad or something. People just loved it. I did not. It's not that great.